Moses went out walking on the mountains, and as he was walking, he found a bush that was burning, which is uncommon, but not outside the realm of possibility. But it was burning, but it didn't burn up, so that's a little bit stranger. And then the bush started talking and said, "Moses." And so that's now crossed over into the area of surprising, unexpected, maybe even, perplexing, possibly even disturbing. And the bush says, "Moses." And Moses says, "What?" And the bush says, "Moses." And Moses says, "Who are you?" And the bush says, "I'm God." And Moses says, "No way." And the bush says, "Yahweh." So just so you know, that's about as close to funny as I'm going to get in the next 10 minutes, because I want to talk about humor. And talking about humor is not necessarily the same as being funny. Novelist E.B. White said that humor can be dissected as a frog can, but the thing dies in the process. So what I want to do is propose a theory about why we find things funny, and about the possible connection between humor and faith. And it's just a theory, and it may not hold up to much scrutiny, and it may fall apart before I'm done explaining it. And the theory doesn't explain everything, and it doesn't explain why we find one thing funny like, funny, and another thing funny like rolling on the ground, spitting milk out of our nose, even if we haven't had any milk. That kind of funny. And it also doesn't explain why 2.5 Men was the most popular comedy of the last decade. I don't understand. So it's just a theory. A laugh. Humor is just one of the reasons that we laugh. We also laugh to create bonds and to reinforce connections. It's a social signal. Some people also laugh when they feel relief, or when they feel embarrassed, or when they feel frightened. But let's say this guy is laughing because he found something funny. So I want to break it down now. I'll look at it in extreme slow motion. So, no laugh here. He's awake. He's listening to the joke. Nothing happening yet. Now things start to shift. You notice that the eyebrows have moved. The pupils are dilated. He's taken an intake of breath and he's holding it. There's a certain amount of tension in his face and in his body. This is the look of extreme concentration. But embedded in there is also a certain amount of panic. This is the instinctual fight or flight response. Now, why has this been activated? Because he has got to the punchline, or the answer to the riddle, or the sight gag, or whatever, and it doesn't make sense. Orange, you glad I didn't say banana? What? That's not even a grammatical sentence, and it certainly isn't an answer to who's at the door. And the duck said, "Put it on my bill." That's the end of the story? A story about a fictional duck who's running a tab at the pharmacy? It's surprising, it's unexpected, and it's incongruous. And of course it is, because if it wasn't, it wouldn't be a joke. It would just be a statement of fact. But here's the thing. We don't like incongruous. It kind of freaks us out. We like a certain amount of predictability, and that's built into us by evolution. Our ancient ancestors weren't the kind of people who said, "Oh, there's a new and unfamiliar kind of berry I've never seen before. I wonder what it tastes like." Or, "Well, look, there's a huge beast with sharp claws and teeth in a place we've never seen that sort of thing before. Let's go investigate." Those aren't our ancestors.
Yeah.
Those aren't anybody's ancestors. We have to make thousands of decisions every day, and sometimes we have to make them fast. Sometimes our life depends on making them fast. But the world is a complicated place. And if we were to take in all of the features of all that's going on in reality, we just wouldn't be able to make any kind of decisions. So what we do is we filter. Our brains, over the process of evolution, have given us some skills for creating a model of the universe that kind of is related to reality, but is a bit easier for us to work with. It's given us heuristics, which is a shorthand way of making decisions based on making assumptions, making expectations, having an intuitive sense of what's good enough or what's close enough, rounding off to the nearest 100, generalizing from our experience. We like patterns. And this is why it freaks us out when a pattern gets broken. We like a little gestalt where everything kind of fits into the place. And so something like this, give it a second. Causes the part of our brain to start going, danger, danger, Will Robinson. Humor capitalizes on this. It relies on the fact that our brain, when it hits an incongruity, something doesn't fit into place, it kicks into overdrive trying to resolve the problem. Because here's the thing, confused people don't laugh. It's no good just getting to the point of something that's incongruous. That's the experience of not getting it, knowing, okay, something's going on, but I don't know what it is. So this is the second part of funny. Aristotle said that the key elements of plot are surprise and inevitability. And he was talking about drama at this point, but I think it also applies to humor. I think it applies to all art. I think it's those two things together are the source of the artistic experience. So what do I mean by inevitability? Inevitability is that feeling of course. Of course that had to happen. Of course that had to be that way. It's obvious. Another word for inevitability could be truth. So this is the next stage in the laugh. We look at this face. What we see is a look of relief. Because this guy's brain, when confronted with the conundrum, has gone back and reanalyzed and has realized that its own assumptions and expectations are the source of the incongruity. And that if it substitutes a different set of assumptions, then the problem is solved. The answer or the punchline or the character doing whatever the character does suddenly makes sense, a different sense than he was looking for before. Now this all happens really fast. That realization that of having a new truth, and once that happens, then all that tension that was kind of built into the face and the body gets released. And that's the end of your ha. Like I say, this happens this is not a slow, methodical, conscious process. This happens in synaptic milliseconds. And the switch from confusion to relief, from this doesn't make sense to, oh, I get it now. The reframing of the expectations happens like that. And that's why the secret to good comedy is timing. So humor is the check and balance of our tendency to use heuristics and to work with assumptions and expectations. It exploits those expectations, and it reminds us that our intellectual model is just that. It's a model. So when we start believing that our words mean what we think they mean, then Groucho comes along to remind us that time flies like an arrow and fruit flies like a banana. When we hold too tightly to the belief that love is romantic and unaffected by social aspirations and economic needs, Jane Austen comes along and invites us to think about whether it is a universally acknowledged truth that a single man in possession of a good fortune must be in want of a wife. And when we start feeling like we are transcendent masters of the physical world, Charlie Chaplin falls down the stairs. Or Nana Bush gets a bunch of porcupine quills in the butt. Or somebody farts. Humor reveals a truth that was hidden from us. And we know it was hidden because we hid it ourselves. Behind our conventions, behind assumptions, or behind just day-to-day inattentiveness. When Jerry Seinfeld says, have you ever noticed, we suddenly go, yeah, we have noticed. I forgot that I noticed, but now that you mention it, yes, I have noticed. If the joke works. If we don't say that, then we haven't noticed and the joke falls flat. Sometimes humor reveals a truth that we don't want revealed, a truth that makes us uncomfortable. That's why so much of humor is grounded in anger or pain, sadness, or so much of humor comes from people who are on the margins. Humor opens us up to new perspectives. By repeatedly flipping our expectations on its ear, humor reconnects us with reality, with the complex, messy, unpredictable reality. The Zen koan, which is slightly different than Leonard Cohen, but only slightly, is a kind of joke that puts us into a feedback loop between confusion and relief. And eventually, if it works, pops us over the fence into enlightenment and the recognition of reality for what it is. Evolutionary theologian Michael Dowd quotes Philip K. Dick, who said, "Reality is that which, when you stop believing it, doesn't go away." And for Dowd, that's God. God is reality. God is that which is fundamentally, undeniably, inescapably real. In the Hebrew Bible, the personal name for God is usually printed as 4 letters. Those who speak it often pronounce it as Yahweh. By tradition, only the consonants are printed, which leaves the actual pronunciation undefined and open to speculation, which allows cartoonist Larry Gonick to suggest that it might be pronounced Yahoo Wahoo. But there are others who see in God's name the roots of the Hebrew word to breathe, and suggest it is not pronounced, but breathed. The inhalation, the intake of breath, the surprise, the unexpected. The exhalation, the relief, the realization that the obvious truth was hidden all the time, but is now in plain sight. The remembering of ourselves and of reality. Ha. The name of God is laughter. Thanks.